Hello everybody, my name is Bricky. I hope your day is going fantastic. Today I have one of those list videos where I discuss different kinds of changes I would like to make to the killers in Dead by Daylight. As a killer main, I like to play killer. So insightful. But I wanted to go ahead and do a simple rundown of each of the killers, how I feel like they are performing right now, and one particular change that I would change to them to make them maybe perform a little bit better or maybe perform a little bit worse. Some of these characters have more important ones than others, but that's because it's hard to change some of them with just one fix. But either way, I'm gonna do my best to go through them anyway. So let's start with the Trapper. Now the Trapper, my one change I would make is to somehow teleport traps into his inventory that are not currently set up after a certain period of time. It would be a long time, so maybe around 45 or even 60 seconds, or even longer than that perhaps. But if there's a trap just chilling around on the map and it is not currently armed, it would just go straight into his inventory. I feel like as the game progresses and becomes faster, the Trapper is a very feast or famine character, and the ability to have traps on him consistently will really help him close out loops. Though I don't want to make it too consistent because then he's basically just a hag again and probably is a little bit too strong. So I'd like that to give him a little bit of a pick-me-up to allow it so that he can get a couple traps here and there to assist him instead of having to go across the map to grab some, because going that far is pretty damn difficult and takes him a ton of time. So just a little bit of a nudge for him, and that's about it. For the Wraith, I'd like to make the Bone Clapper add-on completely base kit. The Bone Clapper add-on makes it so that the well cannot be discerned by distance or direction. I feel like the Wraith being a stealth killer is really ruined by the giant bell he has, and so it'd be nice to give survivors a little bit less ability to know which way he's coming from, so he can kind of go into areas they may not expect and really screw them up a pretty decent amount. Though at the same time, I would consider adding the Ghost add-on instead to his base kit, which makes his terror radius and red stain remain suppressed for 6 seconds after coming out of the character, but I don't think both of them would be a good idea, as that would be a little bit too strong. Though one of those two making him base would be pretty good. For Hillbilly, I would lower the aim assist on his chainsaw. A lot of people think that Hillbilly should have 110 movement speed. I'm not necessarily on that train, aboard that train. Really, I think that his chainsaw is a great ability and very, very powerful. However, the charge up time and stuff makes so that 115 isn't entirely there. However, more often than not, the chainsaw would just straight up lock onto people that I wasn't even aiming at. And it became kind of strange. It almost felt like pre-nurse nerf basic attack. And it feels a little bit unfair sometimes. It's kind of strange. I don't entirely enjoy it so much. So I'd like that to be removed a bit, or at least lowered so it doesn't immediately auto-target onto people and make it super easy. I'd make it more forced on your end. Though I gotta say, if I do that, I would like that the chainsaw to have a little bit of a larger berth during the sawing effect, because sometimes on your side, you're literally sawing through someone's body, but it means nothing because you didn't get it in the beginning. So maybe a small change like that, but overall, that's what I would do. For the nurse, I would lower her lunge distance. I feel like the nurse gets away too much thanks to the very long lunge she has, and I feel that lowering the lunge distance would solve a lot of problems. It would force her to be much closer to the survivors in order to actually hit them. It would also mean that she would need to possibly spend more time blinking in order to get that close, and she would need to target her blinks far more accurately to make it worthwhile. And that adds an extra level of skill to her. She needs to be accurate, and in order to be accurate, you gotta sometimes make reads on survivors. Having a giant lunge range doesn't really, I think, work very well for her, as it just makes her able to mess up a little bit and still hit you. But I think this would be actually a nice different change. For Michael Myers, I had a really hard time figuring out this one, though if I had to choose one, I would have some kind of increased pallet destruction and enduring during tier 3 Myers. They make tier 3 Myers a bit more threatening. So perhaps make it take a little bit longer to get tier 3, but most primarily, I'd like him to have a small amount of pallet resistance during it, maybe only like 25%, and also increase his pallet breaking speed at about maybe 20%. Not giant buffs, but buffs alone to make his tier 3 a little bit more scary and not as loopable. Huntress, simple one. Fix the hitboxes. Just fix them. They're BS for both players. They're BS for killers and they're BS for survivors. Just smooth out those hitboxes, please. It's all you need to do. Huntress is a perfect mom already. For the hag, I would increase her teleportation range. I feel like her teleportation range is already a bit of an arbitrary thing. It feels like it's just not something you really need to have in the game at all. And I'm forced to take increased teleportation range on my add-ons almost every single time. That feels just unneeded. Feels like one of those kind of crutch things. You always gotta take increased add-on range or trap range. Honestly, I'd like to have a little bit more diversification with my builds instead of the exact same setting time and teleport distance time every single time. So some adjustment to that would be kind of nice. Maybe an extra 8 more meters. For the cannibal, I would increase his movement speed during the chainsaw. I like the chainsaw. I think it has a very nice kind of risk versus reward type thing where if you know exactly where the loop is, can you reach them? I think it's really useful. But having a bit of acceleration during his chainsaw would be nice to have. Though maybe make his cooldown a little bit longer after, or his fatigue after the chainsaw to make up for it, so he can't just speed around the map like that. But some kind of increased acceleration I think would be useful. For the doctor, I had a hard time. Originally, I thought you should charge his power up faster so he can shock you quicker, but increase the cooldown. So at the end of the day, it's actually the same amount of shocks. So for instance, if it takes like 4 seconds maybe to shock somebody, then instead the charge up is faster, but the cooldown is longer. So it still takes 4 seconds regardless. It's just adjusted so that you can actually zap people at windows more with timing. However, I feel like that would just make it a little bit too annoying and maybe even too strong. So I decided give him permanent phantom pallets. The fact that phantom pallets is only with an add-on feels kind of dumb. I think that his phantom pallets is a great part of the madness idea that the doctor has, and that really should be built into his kit. For Freddy, I don't play much Freddy, so this may not be the best idea, but I have to go with what I gotta go with, and that's decreasing his generator teleport cooldown. I feel like his teleporting between generators might be a little bit too long, especially considering that you can't even choose where you're going. Like, it has to always be a generator. So I think decreasing that a bit might be a little bit helpful. For the pig, super simple. Have rule set number 2 be base. I have no idea why, if they have traps on their head, they're able to see all of the jigsaw boxes already. It should only appear when they're ticking down. That's kind of the whole point of Saw and the game. It'll make people take longer to go ahead and find boxes when their head's on them before a generator is done. And after it's done, it lights a little bit more of a fire under their ass. And I like that a lot. Come on, that's the whole point of Saw, right? Tension. For Ghostface, pretty simple one. Make it easier to remove him from the ability. Honestly, there's really no reason why people aren't able to just stare at him and remove it. A lot of times I'm just staring dead in his face and it's not being removed and I have no idea why. It's kind of dumb. Just smooth that out, fix it up a little bit. I think that would really help. For the plague, I struggled because the plague is really strong when people cleanse, but also kind of weak. Well, not really weak, but just meh when they don't cleanse. So I just chose increase the effect of her purge on objects. Make it so that puking on stuff makes it take even longer to be removed. So I think that might be nice. Just kind of get people sick more often, keep people from doing stuff. I don't know, small things like that. It's nice to go to a generator and puke on it and not necessarily have to wait as long for everything else. For the Legion, this is a hard one. I really struggled with what I wanted to do for Legion. I'd buff him in a million ways, but I don't know exactly what buff I would give him. Though, honestly, I would increase his movement speed during Frenzy, but lower its duration. So I want Legion to be able to travel the exact same distance as before, but just have him move faster during the Frenzy. But, like I said, lower duration. I think that Legion could use a little bit of map pressure, being able to run from one side to the other, but he runs just a little bit faster, and it's kind of pathetic. So by lowering the duration, but increasing the movement speed, it allows them to get around the map a little bit faster than normal and help deal with things like generators and generators across the map and stuff. For the clown, increase the jiggle physics. I honestly have no idea what to do to the clown, so just make his tummy bounce around more. That's badass. I love that. Clown mains agree with me. For the spirit, it seems that the community just did a 180 and turned on the spirit almost instantly. I don't know why. Having strong killers isn't a bad thing, but honestly, there are a couple times where Spirit feels unfair, and those are 2 instances. One, she hears survivors too well. I wish they would tone down the sound that survivors would make, or at least lower the range. And 2, she bumps into survivors. Now, I'm sure that's a coding thing, and there's something else going on underneath that, but I've bumped into survivors all the time, and it becomes the easiest hit, and I always kind of hated it. I felt bad for it. So if I could fix her, I'd have her stop bumping into survivors. Pretty simple, not really too complicated. I think it's a pretty easy way to do it, and I think that would save a lot of people some annoyances. Though, other than that, I don't really know. I kind of like her. I like when she's strong. You know, she's not nurse level, but I'm glad that she's actually good. Finally, Demi's pretty new, so I can't say too much, but I'd say hitbox fixes. Shred is a little weird at times. Sometimes it's really accurate and acts right. Sometimes it doesn't. That could be a ping issue, but I would say do some hitbox fixes for Demi's thing. It is a little bit weird the way it works. Overall, that's all my changes to killers. I don't know if you like them or don't like them, but go ahead and let me know. Tell me if you would have a change yourself, like for the clown, for instance. If you have your own idea for it, go ahead and leave a comment, or just any of them. If you have your own list, leave me a list. I'm kind of curious. I like to see where people are at. So anyway, thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it, and let me know your feedback, and I'll see you later. Bye.